Right, good afternoon and welcome to the press conference on the 2022 Commission reports on Kosovo and Serbia. We welcome also those who are following us online. As you know, both reports have been adopted at the plenary an hour ago, and so it's my pleasure to welcome the two rapporteurs here with us, the Standing Rapporteur for Kosovo, Ms. Viola VON CRAMON-TAUBADEL, and the Standing Rapporteur for Serbia, Mr. Vladimír BILČÍK. So you will have an opportunity to hear it firsthand from them about their reports. We will start with some introductory remarks by the rapporteurs, and then we will move on with the questions. So first, let me give the floor to the rapporteur on Kosovo, Ms. Viola VON CRAMON-TAUBADEL, and please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. To everyone and dear journalists and the citizens of Kosovo, good afternoon here from Strasbourg. I think we can be all very delighted about today's results, and thanks a lot for joining our press conference after the votes today. This year's European Parliament's report marks a crucial milestone in the journey of Kosovo towards European integration and the strengthening of its democratic institutions. I can go more into details, especially also what we have seen on the last election observation mission. There was a huge progress in terms of matureness in the democratic institutions. So if you're interested, I'm more than happy to elaborate a little bit more, especially on this issue or in this topic. It is a year when 1.7 million of Kosovo citizens will finally get the long overdue visa liberalization. It is also a year when Kosovo has started the Council of Europe application process, on which I would like to warmly congratulate everyone. The European Parliament's annual report on Kosovo is a comprehensive assessment of the progress and the achievements made by the country in various areas. I would like to take a moment to commend the people and the government of Kosovo for the substantial progress made in recent years. Their unwavering commitment to democratic values, fight against organized crime across Kosovo, and alignment with the EU's foreign policy, which have been acknowledged and appreciated by the European Parliament. However, it is essential to acknowledge that challenges, of course, still lie ahead of us. The European Parliament's report highlights areas that need continued focus, such as the fight against corruption, protection of media freedoms, the green transition, and the further consolidation of the rule of law. The pending implementation of the Vysoki-Dečani monastery case is still noticeable. The report also emphasizes the importance of ensuring the protection of minority rights and fostering a society that is inclusive and respects diversity. A particular emphasis is on the dialogue with Serbia. And that's why I'm glad that we always do this together here. This exercise is important to understand that we go along and that we support our special envoy, especially in facilitating this dialogue. As we, of course, expect the implementation of both the Brussels and the Ohrid agreements by both countries. The adoption of this annual report is not just a symbolic gesture. It carries significant implications for the future of Kosovo's European integration aspirations. It represents an opportunity to build upon the progress achieved and reinforces the European Parliament's commitment to supporting Kosovo's path towards the EU. Let me be very clear. The European Union stands firmly with Kosovo, supporting its aspiration and offering the necessary assistance and expertise to overcome the obstacles on its path to the European integration. The European Parliament's adoption of today's report is a clear signal that Kosovo is a valued partner and that the EU remains committed to its development, stability, and prosperity. That's why I'm very happy now to answer to any of your questions related to this report and the current development in Kosovo. Thank you so much for your attention.
Well, thank you, Ms. VON CRAMON-TAUBADEL, and now the floor goes to the rapporteur on Serbia, Mr. Vladimír BILČÍK.
Thank you very much, Yes, very good. Thank you very much for the floor, and it's my pleasure to present to you the key findings of the 2022 Serbia report. First, let me thank everyone in the plenary who voted for this report. More than 500 members of this House supported this report. I think that's a very strong message. We did have long-lasting, at times not easy negotiations, but in the end it was all in the spirit of compromise and cooperation. And I'm pleased to have a report which I believe is a report which gives a fair assessment of where Serbia stands in relation to the European Union, acknowledges some welcome moves and signs, especially following the conduct of the 2022 elections last year, the return of the opposition to the parliament in Belgrade following a number of years of boycott. I'm pleased that the European Parliament also contributed to this through the facilitated inter-party dialogue, and we are happy to continue our engagement with our Serbian partners, and I hope to be in Belgrade soon to continue the parliamentary dialogue process. Let me, before I get into the details and the key messages and takeaways from the report, I also want to pay one more time my deep condolences to the families of those who died in the mass shootings in Belgrade and Mladenovac. I am happy in this extremely unhappy moment that the European Parliament has been standing with Serbia, held a minute of silence on Monday, and today everyone supported my oral amendment in which we condemn in the strongest possible terms the acts of mass shooting in Serbia this month. And we stand in mourning and in solidarity with the families of victims and the people of Serbia. We also do call for thorough investigation of all killings and full delivery of justice. Now, in terms of the main messages, and I said this in the plenary already yesterday, I think we all acknowledge and are very much aware and welcome that Serbia and the new Serbian government, which took office following the elections last year, has fully committed itself to working towards EU membership. EU membership is Serbia's choice. It is a strategic choice. And in that sense, we are ready to work with our Serbian partners. But we also expect Serbia to deliver on this choice. And the three areas which I cover in my report are: one, continued domestic reforms, particularly in the area of justice. We do welcome the constitutional reform and amendments which were passed early last year, but this process must continue. We need a full-fledged implementation of the changes across the court system, but also a look at the prosecution and the justice system must be safeguarded. This is the basis of the rule of law. In addition, Serbia must work on improving the quality of its democracy after the conduct of the elections. We are going to be engaged in the parliamentary dialogue process. And most of all, I should underline, and we had a big discussion on this point in my report, we must see an improvement when it comes to freedom and independence of the media. Attacks against journalists, slaps against journalists, these are unacceptable anywhere. And of course, we will watch closely any such cases also in Serbia. The second point which I want to underline relates to the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina, and we are encouraged by the recent progress. We fully support this dialogue, including the agreements reached in Brussels and in Ohrid, North Macedonia, earlier this year. We also welcome in the report the recent declaration on missing persons, which was adopted earlier this month. But there is a lot that has to be done, and here I should like to underline that we must have also an equidistant approach. In this sense, I very much respect the work of my colleague Viola von Cramon, but I should say, as the rapporteur for Serbia, I am not exactly happy with one of the amendments which was passed today, which puts the sole blame for the conduct of the elections north of Kosovo on Belgrade. I think this is precisely the kind of message which is unhelpful in a difficult situation. There is a responsibility of both sides, and we should always keep that in mind. And I also want to state this for the record here. Nonetheless, I think we are united in full support of the process, of the dialogue. We don't want to see any more tension, any more violence, but rather resolution of problems and full implementation of the agreements, including the establishment of the community of Serbian municipalities without any delay. My last point, and this relates to what has been a game changer in 2022 for politics for all of us in Europe, relates to Russia's brutal and continued aggression against Ukraine. Now here, Serbia has positioned itself in the United Nations, and we acknowledge that, but we expect Serbia, which to date is the only candidate country in the region of the Western Balkans, to align with the European Union, with our foreign policy positions, including the restrictive measures. And we are ready to work with our Serbian partners in this respect. This is important. There is a new geopolitical train moving when it comes to enlargement. Enlargement is back on the agenda of high politics in Europe. As of last year, we have 3 additional candidate countries, Ukraine, Moldova, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. We open accession talks with Skopje and Tirana in the region of the Western Balkans. The process is moving, and we want Serbia to move with us, to stand with us. And this is one of the key messages in my report, a message which I will continue to deliver when I travel to Belgrade next. And if there are any questions, I am very happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bilčík. So we are ready now to take your questions. For those who are following us remotely, if you have a question, please press the raise hand button, and then we will open the mic for you when your turn comes. So, any questions?
So you sound rather optimistic in your report, but Gabriel Escobar was much less optimistic. He said that it's a very little progress, but he appreciated this little progress. So what makes you to be so different in your approach? Because he was very cautious when journalists addressed him about success, because they wanted success, of course, and he was very reserved. So, but I heard now that you are very optimistic about the situation. Also, I'm interested in normalization of the relations between Serbia and Kosovo, because in the beginning of May, there was very little progress. When they met, there was very little progress.
Well, that's okay that people differ in their assessment. Well, it depends on which angle you look at the situation, the political situation. I definitely personally hoped that we would have seen much more progress, especially in the relation with Serbia in the normalization process. And I thought that actually the Ohrid agreement would be a perfect, let's say, base for this. And we pushed also to go further, to implement things quicker, to stick to the timeline, which was actually agreed on. But we see it's a difficult procedure. And yes, in terms of the domestic reforms, we have asked in our report to stick to the Venice Commission opinion, to go ahead with the reforms in the judiciary sector, but not, let's say, find an own way how to deal with it, but really go along the recommendation which were sent from the Venice Commission, but also given by the European Union and by the EU delegation or EU office. And everything else, I mean, it depends on both sides. That's what I personally thought, that the last election, the municipal election in the north, could have been a good test. A good test that we say, on one hand, yes, we have to push more on the government in Pristina, but in that respect, I would have hoped that the participation of the Serbian list could have been a good step, a good positive signal from the other side, that they are ready to come back to the institution, to go the next step, to then, let's say, reach out to Pristina. And since this hasn't happened, it is a bit difficult now where to, let's say, go. And not just difficult, but it is we see that probably the reverse gear is again shifted. And I very much regret that. I will also go to Kosovo, I will also go to Serbia to find out what are the main obstacles. Sometimes these are domestic reasons, and then it is difficult for us to push from here, but sometimes they are more, let's say, sand in the engine, and I need to listen more and to get more information on this. But in general, I'm not as pessimistic as I was a year ago.
It's a very Oh, sorry about that. Thank you for the question. Very good question. Now, if you told anybody a year ago that in May 2023 we would have something like the Brussels Agreement, the Ohrid Agreement, now a Declaration on Missing Persons, maybe people would look at you a bit strangely. I think we have seen a very tangible progress when it comes to the engagement by both sides. Albin Kurti and Aleksandar Vučić are talking to each other frequently, and those talks also bring results. Now, we may not always be as happy with the results as some of us would want to be. I would hope that our American friends and allies would fully support the EU facilitated dialogue, because this is in the interest of everyone. Now, I think we are at an important crossroads, because we have the basic documents which have been endorsed by all negotiating sides, and this is an important political signal. And what is crucial right now is to work on implementation. And only that implementation can bring more trust in the process. This is the most difficult part. I think here we need strong support, unity and encouragement by all institutions. And this is why I think the European Parliament, also through my report on Serbia, but also through the report on Kosovo, is sending an important signal that we are committed and fully stand behind the dialogue. That is the only way towards normalization of relations between Belgrade and Pristina. But quite frankly, that is also a major way towards a European future for the region, for both Belgrade and Pristina. And this is an important message to everyone who is engaged. This is why I also underline in my remarks. We don't want any violence. We don't want any more tensions. We need a resolution of these issues. This is why the shuttle diplomacy, also on behalf of the EU, continues intensely as we speak, and I hope this can contribute to important results. And I say it also after what was probably one of the most tragic weeks for Serbia in years after the mass shootings in Belgrade and Mladenovac. I don't think anybody wishes violence, anybody wishes peace, and that can only be achieved if and when these agreements, these documents, which have been made public after the meetings in Brussels and Ohrid earlier this year, come to life. And this is what we need to focus on, and we need everybody behind ourselves. Diplomats are sometimes more cautious. I think it is our task as politicians to be encouraging and to look forward, because this is an important investment of all of us, and failure is not an option.
Thank you. So do we have any more questions? There is a raised hand. So, Veljko Nestorović, you just need to press the speak button. Veljko, can you hear us?
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Viola von Cramon. Today, the government of Kosovo, today, government of Kosovo adopted the draft of the law of the expropriation of the land in the north municipality, Leposavić and Zvečan. Does Viola von Cramon, is she aware about that case? And when we talk about the normalization, can you hear me? I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. So it happened today, you said?
Yes. Hello. Yes, it was adopted. And are you aware of the situation in the north and the expropriation of the land from the local Serbs? And the local Serbs addressed, can you help, how can I say it, negotiate between the Serbs in the north and the Pristina? I know the European Union is aware about the case, and there is a great concern among the Serbians in the north that this will continue in the future, the expropriation of the land in the north. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. Yes, we're very much aware of that. That is absolutely unacceptable. And that is one reason why when I go to Kosovo, I will also go to the north of Kosovo and will definitely speak to the citizens in the north and find out more about that. And then, of course, confront the government in Pristina with the situation on the ground. That is one of my tasks, and this is one of my, I would say, main concerns at the moment, because we see that the stability, if we can even call it stability in the north, is very, very fragile, and it can't not be in our interest that even more, let's say, fuel will be funneled in this process. So yes, thank you for your question, and we definitely will take care of that. I'm sure that also our EU special representative plus the people on the ground in the EU office have that on their agenda. But we will take this on board for sure.
And Mr. Bilčík would like also to react to this question.
Just a few words, and thank you for that question. I talk to people from the north of Kosovo frequently, and what worries me is that when we talk about normalization of relations, I think first and foremost it means that people who live in the region can lead normal lives. And at the moment, many Serbs in the north are not able to lead a normal life, meaning you can go out, feel safe, go to public offices, do about your daily business as you used to several years ago. And in that sense, it is extremely important that all steps, also by Pristina, are in line with this in mind. The normalization is there for the people. And that also means that any measures and steps taken by the authorities have to be carried out in line with the principle of the rule of law. That applies also to any extraordinary attempts to expropriate land. So I just also want to echo, as the standing rapporteur for Serbia, that we are watching the situation very, very closely. It concerns both sides. And again, let's avoid sparks, let's avoid tensions, let's look for solutions for the people on the ground. It is about their European future, and this goes for all ethnic groups who live there. They deserve it equally.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Online, not here in the room. Well, then we will wrap it up. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you to the rapporteurs for the answers. Thank you all for the participation, and I wish you all a nice afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.